this was, and the program has been so successful that last year's interns, and I have one of them here today, right here, Mr. Nathaniel DeSetto, the work that they did last year was recognized. So that now, starting June 11th, we travel as a research group to the Cat's Paw Ranch in Como, Colorado, to do environmental monitoring for a ranch. And so the work that these guys are doing is becoming very real. I think we're trying to establish what's going to be a 5-year relationship, and to be able to do this every single year. It's growing, you know, it's great. A few people that I want to acknowledge, of course, today is our superintendent of schools, Mr. Albert Martinez.
Yay.
Mike Pena. And of course, my mentor 26 years ago, Eddie Campos.
Yeah.
I think this year, one of the things that's always been part of me, 26 years ago, I was having a conversation with Eddie Campos, and we were talking about my educational philosophy, you know, what I want my students to have. And it's always been respect and responsibility. And I think that this program has taught them respect and responsibility. They respect the land, they respect their education. They now know that they're responsible, and they're going to be the people that take care of our communities and our resources for many, many years to come. So with that being said, I will ask that everybody signs in so we can get this going. And I'd like to introduce first Mr. Rich Schrader, who is going to give you a little bit of information about
Okay, and thank you, Victor, for being the spark plug that's really got the chispa, you know, the way to be here. Okay, and it's an honor to be back here again, and but this time actually showing up on more or less on time. I think the last time we did it up at the campground, we were running. Actually, Nathaniel remembers that, our first one. And it's true, we're on year 2 of what may be a 5-year project or longer. To be frank with you, you know, if I had my way, River Source would get in for 3 to 5 years and we'd get out, because you guys would start doing it just on your own, running a crew. Who's gonna do that? Maybe him, I don't know. But let's not all put everything on Victor, because these guys are now part of this cohort. And so is Nathaniel, you've been exposed to seeing the land in a different way, getting out there and reading the land in a different way that you maybe not have noticed before. So you're going to start noticing things. And guess what happens when you start noticing arroyitos forming? You start thinking about fixing them. So we did a lot of erosion control work, but we also, I wanted to point out, I wanted to show you actually, and this is stuff that we won't be able to touch on very much, but this is actually data these guys gathered at several places. This one right here is Miss Pena's land, and these are all observations they made about issues that might be of concern, such as noxious weeds or soil erosion. And each one has a georeference, where it is in space, where you can find it. Is it a gully forming? Is it noxious weeds growing? And these guys gathered that data. I'll just show you one right here as an example. And you go here and then you get a picture. There's the road crossing. And of course there's Louis saying, whoa, what's going on here? How do we look at the land now? We're in this point where there's generational change is happening as well as climate change. He's saying, well, who's going to be people to do the work that Mike Pena's been doing for 40 years, right? And how do we look at these creeks in a different way? So we're going to keep this water close instead of sending it off down to the downstream users that are important, but it's not here anymore. So how do we restore lands? These guys got exposure to that. I just wanted to show that because I don't think we had a chance to show you this tool. We also have stuff up the river. Guess whose land this is? And there's all kinds of sites, and I think maybe these guys will be talking about some of these sites, like what they found and the erosion that we saw in some of these places. Like that observation made by, let's see, anyway. So that's kind of what we did in this. It's different than just like doing labor and fixing fences. We want to get into the mental part of this work so that the capacity grows and continues to come out of here. Maybe you guys will be contractors. You saw what did it take to do what we did yesterday at Luis Pena's land? Like about 3 or 4 hours. And guess what? We healed a little arroyito. It's not going to be eroding anymore. So with that said, I'm gonna just say that I want to acknowledge some people. I want to acknowledge the school, of course, and Victor. I've done that, but even people, volunteers like Victor Coronado, who helped get some of the interns to the right place at the right time. That takes a community. You know what we find here is when we put in efforts, we find people like him showing up. People like Luis coming out and bringing us drinks. People like Miss Pena sitting down and talking with us about what her values are in the land. And then these guys listening and then trying to figure out a way to respond. That's basically what we did. We didn't come in with a plan and say, Miss Pena, you got to do this. We learned how to read the landscape together. And that's what these internships are about. Basically enabling these guys to see some of the tools out there and applying those tools in a local way. A way that's adapted to people like somebody that's a keeper of local traditional knowledge, like Mike Pena. Okay, that's education in a way that's beyond just the school. It's taking education and making community education, community centered. So that's what I hope we can keep doing. Keep working with the schools, like with all the teachers, including Victor, but also in these summertime programs. And then finally, we are going to be looking to try to do wintertime internships, but not a big old crew like you guys. Maybe somebody like Nathaniel who's bored, who's already done all the school, but he's got 8 to 12 hours. And guess what? Mike Pena's got some data he's got to crunch, or Angie Crawl wants some mapping done. So it'll be a little different kind of thing. It'll actually be very project specific instead of what you guys did. Well, I'll say a little bit more about you guys later, but you guys did great. So I'm gonna pass it on to your to the next presenter. I'll stop sharing.
So with that being said, the first presenter is Stevan Pena. I'll let him go.
Can you guys hear me okay? Hello, my name is Stevan Pena Jr. I'm 14 years old and I attend Mesa Vista. But today I'm going to be talking about crayfish that we have seen on the planet. So on June 16th, we had set minnow traps to get the crayfish out of the Rio Tucson. So we set up minnow traps in the water and left them overnight. The next day we went and checked them and we caught about like 56 crayfish. The last day, which was on June 28th, we went to Luis Pena's ranch. And there was the landowner and an engineer. They were talking about a culvert that was made in 1956. Also, the dam itself was there since the early 1800s. Then we had to kill all the crayfish. We then got rid of the crayfish because they are invasive to the system and take over the Rio Tusa because they kill good insects, fish, and they take oxygen out of the river. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a presa. The presa is a head gate of an irrigation ditch. What we did with the presa is we cut coyote willows with a salsa to clear up some space based on the guidance of landowner Mike Pena. We also used the trees from Renee Pena's land. Then we hauled out the willows out for an archaeologist to survey the site before we constructed the broken presa. Also, on the last day we worked, we met up with a private engineer who was working with Luis Pena and the Servieta Ditch Association to make improvements to the ditches. So now that I go down here, these are the locations that we were working on. So the first one is La Madera. We didn't really work over there. We just it kind of gave us an entrance to where the Servieta Road led to. The second is the Ojo Caliente Mineral Springs. We went there. We got gathered with other groups from Peñasco and Northern, and we were just like doing water quality and just looking at a few stuff. The third place is Saviota. This is where we did most of our work. We were working on 3 ranches, which were Luis Peñas, Rene Peñas, and Mike Peñas. So the next would be, as you can see here, one of my former crew members, Sonny Lucero, he went to go catch crayfish at the old Middle Spring, and this is what they look like when they were cooked. The next thing is we were doing a little bit of water quality at Luis Peñas branch. As you can see here, we were trying to see if we could find different insects in the water. So there's a few baby crawdads, and there's some of the different types of other insects. Next is, so this is another crew member, Damian Valdez. While I was taking out the minnow traps from the river, there happened to be a snake in the trap. So here's a picture of him holding the snake.
Which was not venomous?
Yes. These were the haras that we took out from the press off. So instead of wasting them or anything, they actually came very helpful to us. They came helpful because we were making wickery dams, which is we put like 4 posts, and we get the willows and we like weave them straight through them to make it more steady. Huh? Erosion control. This is a before picture of the press. You can see there's me. We hadn't really done nothing much to it, as you can see. And this was an after. We did all right, but this is another. This is our crew, Leo Griego. He won't be joining us today because he had to go on vacation. I also want to take the time to thank the RiverSource staff for coming out here and setting up the program for us. The main RiverSource member I'd like to thank is Rich Schrader and Carlos Herrera for taking their time to set up a program for us teenage kids. I would also like to thank a former teacher, Mr. Victor Jaramillo, for keeping us in track when we were lacking. I also would like to thank Mr. Ron Martinez of Enlace for letting us observe his match. I would also like to thank Sharon Wright for letting us observe the Elk Headington Middle Springs. Is there any questions?
You guys need any of the crayfish?
Sonny, did you guys?
Yeah, I ate them all 50.
That's all I have for you guys today.
I just want to present you with a check that's funded in large part from the state, but also I just wanted to say before you, I'd noticed you and Stevan. Stevan, you are very game. You're ready to jump in wherever you're asked, and I think that's a special skill. And so, yeah, remember you've got that, and then also remember that discernment, meaning deciding what to jump into, is also very important. So, thank you for your work, and I hope you consider coming back. Okay.
So next we have, well, before I introduce the next guy, I really do want to thank Ms. Pena again. You know, that kind of what happened is, of course, the forest was closed, right? Fire, danger, the whole entire bit. And so we were really scratching around as to where we were going to go, right? The grant was written so that they were able to do work with the private landowner, okay? Ms. Pena is my neighbor in the classroom. And so one day I mentioned it to her. So she really opened up the property, Luis, and gave us the opportunity. So that was great. Ms. Sharon Wright isn't here, but at the drop of the dime, they'll hook on at the Mineral Springs. Says bring these groups. We had the Penasco schools. We had Northern College and ourselves, and of course about 40 kids.
Oh, and then Marcos Valdez's group.
Marcos Valdez's group from Espino. And so the community's really kind of buying into this. So I really want to, we appreciate that. Okay, so next we have Mr. Sonny Luciano.
Hello everyone, my name is Sonny Lucero. I'm 14 years old. I live in New Mexico. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the interesting things we did working with RiverSource. We set up game cams and viewed footage, and we also took a look at some interesting plants that could be of potential concern to these landowners' properties. If I scroll up here, there's a map. Marked on this map is Mesa Vista, New Mexico. This is the location of the 3 landowners' properties where we were working on. We set up game cams on June 9th, which was the day after we first started working with RiverSource. Cameras were set up on Renee Peña's property down in Mesa Vista, New Mexico. The reasons we set up the cameras on her property was because we noticed signs of animals nearby, and we felt it would be interesting to catch footage of animals. The signs we noticed were footprints, elk rubs, and feces. After that, we walked along the fence line and looked for areas the animals could have been potentially getting in the area away from. We set up game cams in the areas we felt would best capture footage of wildlife. There were 2 cameras. One camera was set up on a tree and the other camera was set up on a post holding up the fence. After that, we waited till Monday to collect the footage. On Monday, we checked the footage on both game cams and we captured images and videos of elk and deer on both cameras. This is an image of the game cams. This camera is what we use to capture the footage of the wildlife. This is a sign of wildlife. This is an elk rub. It's caused by an elk rubbing their horns and skinning a tree. This is one of the images we caught on one of the game cams. As you can see, there is a deer right there. Here is another image of the exact same deer, just in a different area. Working with RiverSource, we also learned about many invasive plants that could be of potential concern to the landowners, to the 3 landowners' properties we were working with. On Renee Peña's property, there was a lot of sheetgrass. Sheetgrass is bad because it doesn't meet the requirements for most wildlife. On Mike Peña's property, there was a lot of coyote willow. Coyote willow is not actually an invasive plant. It's actually a native plant. But I decided to include it because it's still harmful to an area. Coyote willow is bad because it's known for absorbing most of the water in an area. On Luis Peña's property, there was a lot of Scotch thistle. Scotch thistle is bad because it takes over entire fields very quickly. It's also known for having lots of small thorns on it and scratching livestock. These plants can be very harmful to properties and are all known for taking over fields. This is an image of sheetgrass. Sheetgrass grows in old dry field lands. This is an image of coyote willow. Coyote willow grows in low elevation, stabilized river bars, and along streams and wetlands. This is an image of Scotch thistle. Scotch thistle grows in all grass prairies, pastures, old fields, roadsides, savannas, and forest edges. During my job, I worked with a variety of many great people, including my friends/colleagues, which were Stevan Peña, Jason Gallegos, Damian Valdez, Jeremy Riley, and Leo Griego. Our supervisors were Victor Jaramillo, Rich Strader, Carlos Herrera, and Leo Griego. All those people made working with RiverSource fun and exciting, and overall just better. I want to also go ahead and give a huge thank you to the 3 landowners that let us work on their properties: Renee Peña, Mike Peña, and Luis Peña. Thank you. Some more people I want to give a huge thank you to is to my friends and family for always being there for me and supporting me. That is all I have. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. Feel free to ask. If none, I will pass it down to Jason.
Are willows bad in any situation? Or do you need some sometimes?
You need them sometimes.
Okay. They just grow in the wrong place sometimes.
Yeah.
So good, great presentation. I Sonny, you were definitely the quiet one, but always focused, which is rare. You know, in an age of, these cell phones, our attention spans have shrunk to like milliseconds. I notice you haven't been affected by that disease as much as other people. Hold on to that, because seriously, that's what the world needs.
Okay, so, and thank you very much for your hard work. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's kind of funny that Rich says that about the whole cell phones. We were having a discussion yesterday that it's an erosion control right at the gate when you come onto campus. As you guys exit, you can see where we have some blue flags. We had a situation where there was dirt, other debris that was washing onto the road, making it difficult for the buses and a lot of ice and that stuff, and they fixed that. And it was real funny because when we were here on campus, these guys were a little bit harder to manage because they wanted to use bathrooms, phones. But we were out there, it's like, yeah, there's no phones. And so they had to remain really focused, right? And so there was one day that it was really kind of funny. It was, I believe it was Jeremy and Stevan and Jason, that they were so eager to learn that they were jumping around. And I thought that was, I told them, guys, quit jumping around. You're acting like you have attitude. Come to find out, they really did.
Leo did too.
Right? So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Jason Davis.
Hello, my name is Jason Gallegos, and today I'll be presenting the land use and water quality. My name is Jason, I'm 15 and going to the 10th grade this year at High School. I'd like to run around with people on with the outdoors. Here is a picture of the land use of a map where we worked on. This first mark is where Oaxaca, which is basically our home base. The second one is where we review water quality. And the third is Sieta, laser leveling, and where we did water quality also. During our research program, I have experience here. There are two really good things that we learned during the program, which will be explained. Laser leveling was a very interesting thing I learned in the research. The whole point of laser leveling is just trying to find the different points of ground level to make sure the whole field is even. First, we'll set up everything. We would set the laser, which is used to detect the rod from ground level. Then we would get the rod and attach a monitor that would show arrows to go higher or lower. The rod was used for the length and the points to show how low the ground level or how high it is. Here's a picture right here of the rod that we were using. So we would pull these bars out of the rod and they all had numbers on them. And the arrows would show to go lower or higher with the rod. When the monitor was beeping, it would mean to go lower or higher. But when it hit a straight beep, that means we had to stop and mark the points. We did this operation for every 300 feet across Miss Pena's field. At first, we were going a little slow with the operation of land lasering at first, but when we got the hang of it and finished at a faster pace with good timing. Now I'm going to be talking about water quality. Water quality, I thought, was a very experimental thing I thought I was going to learn. So first, we would get everything set up. We would test the water from the river. We would go get the table, supplies, and water testing from the river. We would fill 2 glass containers and fill them halfway. Then we would get another one filled all the way with no bubbles. We would test the 2 half ones, and we would get the results from a temperature gauge. From Luis Pena's property was 22 degrees Celsius, which is pretty warm. When we tested the river from Ron's property, it was about 17 degrees Celsius, which is a big difference from Mesa Pena's river. This is called chemistry water quality. Then we had to get nets and to go catch living bugs or organisms in the river to identify what type of bug they are. This is us right here going through all the bugs to see what different types of bugs we would find. And then the dissolved oxygen get this process shows to see if there's oxygen in the water and if it's livable for fish and other organisms in the river. If the test results come to 6 milligrams or over, it is livable, and if it's 6 milligrams or over, then fish or organisms will have a hard time living in that kind of environment. This picture right here is an image of the data sheet that we use to record water quality. This picture right here is my crewmate, Jimmy Riley, who is getting crawdads out of the minnow traps. I want to thank all the staff of this program for teaching us all these new things. I want to thank Rich Schrader and Carlos Herrera for having us in the program teaching us these experiments on how to process their problems. I also want to thank Mr. Damian and Mr. Coronado for taking the work and keeping me on track every day. I also want to thank Mr. Damian for supporting our crew and helping us whatever we need. I also want to thank Mr. Coronado for the elder interview of how the system of the world works from this day till now. I also want to thank Ron Martinez for being part of our program and letting us experience his ranch. And I also want to thank Miss Pena, and Miss Luis for having our crew and letting us check their water temp and water quality and letting us laser level on their properties. That's all I have. If you have any questions,
I have a question about the systems you found in the water. At the beginning, I heard someone say that crawdads are a sign of bad water quality.
yeah.
What would be an example of good water quality?
We found a lot of caddisflies.
Yeah.
We found a few mayflies. And so, when they're trying to do this, you guys can elaborate on it a little bit. Each of the different types of aquatic invertebrates will have a tolerance rating, depending on what their pollution, heat, and what happens. And so the big issue with the crawdads was that they were accidentally introduced to the river, right on the river. I don't know what we want, but I know they were introduced there. They just kind of take it over. Okay? They kill the fish, they kill the bugs, and they're just really. So that's where they kind of work that a little bit. Indicator species, it's a relatively still a healthy river. It's a little warm, but then again, with climate change, it's going to change. Jason,
Yeah, good job, really good job, and integrating good photos. Jason, I just want to thank you. You were the one person that I think was always very ready to do anything and present and eager to try things new. I see a good focus in you that stays focused on things. That's going to be a skill that you're gonna use. And I do want to say, here, I want to give this to you. Thank you, and know that I think you've got a big future on being outdoors. Doing things. I know you love that. I saw how happy you were, and so yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you. I just want to quickly say, just to riff off what Victor said earlier, is that we had to pivot super fast in the forest space. We were going to be working on a bunch of work with them, but then look at the opportunity that created, right? And where you have somebody like Ms. Penny, Luis, Ron, Antima, Mike, that's 4 different landowners on the same river, all of a sudden talking with these kids about a conversation about how it's all connected. That wouldn't have happened if we were up in El Rito campground, right? And so I just want to acknowledge again that actually in this room, it's incredible the resources that are here. But sometimes it takes an event like running a crew like these guys to get some conversations going about how we are connected. So anyway, Jason, thank you very much.
So before I continue, I guess, I want to acknowledge Mr. Ron Martinez. He's to get back to the laser leveling a little bit that Jason was talking about, that's real data, okay? Mr. Pena, Mr. Luis Pena, Ms. Renee Pena, they're going to be able to take that data of that land laser and be able to look at it. And I think you said you were going to meet with an engineer, right, at one point? Right, and they're going to be able to use this data and during their application with this grant to prove that that property needs to be leveled out and what their plans are. So it's real data that's going to be, very, very useful. I guess the other thing is, did they already show you guys a picture of the snake? Yeah. So we did run into 4 rattlesnakes during our 3 weeks. You ran over. Yeah, one of them we tried to. So next, Mr. Jeremy Ryan.
Jeremy Riley, and I'm going to talk about erosion control. I honestly think erosion control is an important topic because, especially if it's under roadways, it could collapse and it might be able to cause a big accident. Especially if you live on ranches and farms. You also, if you have a ditch that's running on the side of your field and it erodes the side enough, water can go over and it could flood the field and kill all the crops. The first thing that we would do is we would go to the property and survey the land. Like, because we had our work phones that Rich gave us, and it would, so we have this app called Survey 123. We'd take a picture. It's like a little Google form or whatever, a little bit, and you type in all the stuff about it, what happens, or what happened, and whatever. And then we would try, the reason we would survey it is because we needed to, if we wanted to go back, build some water erosion control structures if we needed to hopefully stop that erosion. This is one of the, this right here is called a wicker dam. What we would do is we would dig holes with a post hole digger, and then we would sometimes either hammer them in or put them in and bury them with dirt and pack it in. And then we would weave coyote willows in, and then we would put one row of rock in front of it and 2 rows behind, which also work as like a 1 rock dam. And the hardest part about that was the posts that we had were, or the juniper that we had were pretty old, so we couldn't hit it that hard with the sledgehammer, otherwise it would crack and break. So that's why we resorted to burying it. Some of the other structures that we would use is a media luna, which is this right here, because it resembles a half moon. And we would also use a 1 rock dam, a zuni bowl, and rock mulch run dams. All of these are used to slow down the water, so that way it also slows down the erosion. These are really easy to build because all they need is rock. Rock is honestly an easy material to get because it's everywhere. And I honestly had fun with this river source internship. I'm glad that they were doing this to help the landowners, because they honestly really need it, because they honestly don't really have that much time in their hands, because they probably have other work, jobs, and a bunch of other stuff. So it's honestly good that they're doing this. I would also like to say thanks to the Pena family for letting us on their properties. And I don't have it up here, but thanks to Ron Martinez for letting us on his property and do a drone flight and water quality tests. And I want to say thank you to all of you for your time. And also, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask.
Good job, man.
You know, Jeremy, you're oftentimes the tall, quiet one. You're also, I know, I was just thinking about you this morning. My daughter's tall, like you, and she's growing so fast, it actually hurts sometimes. Like all of a sudden you hurt. You have growing pains? Anybody hear about growing pains? I have a feeling that's sometimes what you're going through, because you're so big and you're big and you're thoughtful and you're quiet. And when you speak, actually, I can tell your words are measured. You kind of thought about it. And that is an incredible skill that'll carry you through life. So I want to thank you so much for your work, and yeah, thanks.
You know, one of the most important things with this program is that there's a big push, not only in our school, but in schools statewide, nationwide, for kids to start developing careers in what they call STEM: science, engineering, technology, and math, right? And that's exactly what these guys did. They go out and make scientific observations as to what they need to do, right? They used technology. The mere fact that they had the cell phones that Rich provided them, right? The drones that were really cool. The laser lamp, you know, technology that we probably didn't have a long time, right? The engineering, coming up with plans, making things easier, making things better. And of course, they had to do calculations. So when it comes to STEM, this program really hit it right on the head. And hopefully some of these guys will decide to go into those sorts of careers later on. Okay, and so last but not least, Mr. Damian Valdez.
Okay, so I'm Damian Valdez. I am the DPS software on this high school. And so we've been using the drones to get a bird's eye view of the area, so we had a different point of view. We wouldn't see on code. The drones make it very easy to just look in the area, so we're not working out multiple places at once. Focus focus just in one area. It also helps us spot erosion in multiple areas, and also it's yeah. Okay, right here is a map where we've been working mainly up in Savienta. I forgot to mark on the map. We also been working at the old Camp Springs and over at the school. What's called here's a picture of my friend Jeremy Riley flying the drone and operating it. We're using the drone to follow the arroyo to spot any potential concerns and erosion. Here's a picture taken from the drone. I believe this picture is very significant because it shows both dry spots and green spots. The reason why it's like that is because the terrain is very unlevel. So like the water only stays down there and it's not able to travel up there, uphill. Here's a video of Jason doing the laser leveling that you had mentioned earlier. So as you can see, like if we were using the laser level to just get a measurement of the land, see the high points and low points. We were doing this to so we could reseed the land and just make it generally easier for the Pena family to grow crops and have cattle on the land. And right here within another video, here's where we built the breaker dams, the rock rundowns, and just general erosion control, like Jeremy had mentioned earlier. So as you can see, we have built five structures. The reason why we put this in place was to stop the land from eroding and flooding the water. And then I would like to thank the Riversource staff for giving us this opportunity to work and just learn all these new experiences. I would also like to thank Mr. Jaramillo for recommending this internship to us in the first place. I'd also like to thank all of you for coming out and just kind of giving us your time and watching us work. Okay, so do you have any questions? I do. Okay.
How did you guys figure out where to put those dams?
What's called the way we figured them out was like over at the curve, over at the curve where the water runs the fastest. We put it either just before and just after, just slow it down. So like because right there is most areas where it's going to go.
Yeah,
We have
called
other questions?
medialunas. Tips down. Do you remember when the tips go down?
Yeah, tips go down to see.
If it's at the top of the hill.
Yeah, tips go up whenever it's at the bottom of the hill.
So it's either helping move the water slowly into an arroyo at the top of the hill, and at the bottom, when it flattens, you want to spread it out like a big fan. With the tips are up.
They actually have a recommendation here on campus. As you enter campus, there's the road that goes the speed bumps over to the main parking lot, and there's the road where the buses come down afterwards. It makes that V. As you guys leave, you can see that all this erosion, all this sediment is washing onto it. So I spoke with Anthony Behill, the maintenance supervisor. And I said, right here, these guys have said that this is a good place for a media luna to stop the erosion coming onto the road, to slow the water that's coming down, and to maybe put, some signage for campus, turn out something nice, maybe put a trophy or something out there. So that's a plan that maybe these guys might want to work on.
And that's it. I just want another question, Damian.
Yeah, what's your question, sir?
I like the footage, drone footage there.
Yeah.
Do you ever use any other apps like Google Earth?
Yeah, we had used what was the server 123? Well, yeah, we used server 123 just to mark the areas where you got the drone footage from, and just the story maps as well. All this.
Yeah, these are built on story maps, Esri's story maps, which they make ArcGIS, the most expensive Cadillac version, but they also learned the open source ways, like Google My Maps. I showed them how to export the data so they can put it in a number of apps. But we could use more time on mapping. I think mapping you must be a geographic geek like us. And so yeah, finding ways to do it free, we started some of that.
Yeah.
Just to follow you and all. In the 1930s, when I was representing the government, I also moved on one project rock right now. Appreciate it. Do we have any other questions or comments? Okay,
Sorry, that's Carlos. Hey, Carlos.
Oh, wait, stop. Wait, the Leo graded presentation. Yeah, I'm gonna do it from there. It's not working. There, okay. Oh, it's already loaded. Perfect. Okay, just one quick thing before we go on. You still haven't gotten this. And Damian, I just want to compliment you on your always game. And you also know how to juggle a lot of things. I think your mind is working around a lot of things. Maybe you have a problem like me called, yeah, like just paying attention. And but you're the one person that maybe can keep so many balls in the air. You could become a natural resource consultant. I could see that because you get the tech and you're not afraid of the tech, and you just need more experience, man. And so you worked really hard. After Leo, which we'll talk about soon, you got paid the second most because you worked the most hours. Yeah, really. So every assignment was asked of him. He did it, and he did it well. Gave it a good effort. So, we have another person, and this person was a real instrumental guy, Leo Griego. He, for the first time last year, we didn't do this, did we, Victor? We didn't hire this older age, and we're struggling to find people to work. I mean, how many people do you hear about? It's hard to find workers, right? And he showed up like maybe 2 days before the internship or something like that. And he, the idea that we're doing is we want to hire a 20 to 25-year-old that has a little bit more experience and responsibility that can do things. And I think he was a real asset for both of us because he stepped up. What I noticed about Leo is once he was told he's the crew leader, guess what he did, guys? You probably can validate this. He went like this. And you can tell he enjoyed being a leader. And sometimes that's all people need. And I think he showed up so well. So he had a video that I don't know if you want to introduce, because I didn't see him record it. I can play it.
So yeah, Leo Griego is from La Madera. His parents are David and Lilian Griego. He's a sophomore in New Mexico State studying mechanical engineering. Like Rick said, it was really, really effective. Last year that we ran the program, I was the only one that I didn't have assistant to be able to these guys and check it. It was really funny. He had them to the point when we sat down to eat lunch. How he got high school after we had it for 26 years ago. We would sit down at lunch and Leo would say, guys, get out your journals and let's record. Get your journals done. And these guys are on. I mean, they've got a notebook, a journal that they can show you of all their experiences. And like I tell you, the school year, I can't get this guy's price like that. And Leo was able to do it, so I'm gonna have to talk to him a little bit. But that is Mr. Leo there. He's got a short presentation.
Yeah.
And he asked that we play it, so you guys can acknowledge him as well. So
Let's see if this goes, guys. We're streaming via the web, and we know that the web sometimes doesn't always work. Oh, see, look at that, guys.
Yeah, are you playing it locally or you're playing it on?
I couldn't get to play locally. For some reason, this Windows machine will not read it. Let me go back.
It's called, but because we had to play locally earlier, didn't we?
I know, but it reset. So anything that it cached in its browser is here, let me try one more thing.
Bro, so did you look at your file? Your files? Maybe
I
it's in
have it.
there.
I have
Yeah,
it
but I guess the
locally.
voice.
I have it locally, but it won't play. Let me try it again. Let's see. Yeah.
Watch, okay, maybe try closing up
Go to
everything and then try
downloads,
playing it again.
and here it is, right here.
Yeah.
This should play, right? Here we go. Yeah, look at this. I can't believe Windows wants to pay for an extension on it. Oh, see what I mean?
Watch, maybe try
Right
it
on the
okay.
set. You ready to roll?
Carlos? Is that Carlos thing there?
My name is Leo.
Oh, we'll go to something else. No, I got an idea. Go right click it. Highlight, right click. You wanted to right click the open with.
See what I told you? The tech guy is figuring it out. Let's see.
Quiet on the set. You ready to roll?
No, see.
Do photos.
Let's see if it's ready. Okay, we're gonna give it one more chance to run it off of the server. Yeah, it's too bad. We did not, here we go. See? Huh? Why doesn't it spin? Why does it spin?
Try reloading it.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and then you should be able to play it now.
Sorry. Let's open up photos. It might do the same thing.
You should be able to play it now because you reloaded it. Yeah, let's just see. Let's see.
I can't believe it. That's too funny. Well,
Dude, well, we have the audio. So you don't have to hear it. Try and play it now since you reloaded it.
okay, wait, here we are. One more time here.
There you go.
Quiet on the set. You ready to roll?
Seems like I'm more of a tech guy.
All right. Here's Leo.
That's not gonna play this.
I am a 19-year-old, gonna be a sophomore at New Mexico State University, majoring in math. I am the team leader for this year's River Source internship. I am from La Madera, New Mexico. And I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about Survey 123, which was the app we actually used in order to survey the land and find potential concerns on each and every single one of the properties that we went to. So if you look down here, you can see a little bit of some of the information that we entered. And we actually used GPS in order to get the specific location of potential concerns that we identified on that land, which I found pretty interesting. So some of the potential concerns that we came across had to do with erosion, such as head cliffs like this. So you'll see the water run down here, and this is just going to get deeper and deeper, move further back. We also had some dry land, just some high points that must be in the fields that we recorded. We have ourselves some erosion next to the road that we identified in GPS. There were some animal trails that we actually entered into Survey 123, just so that way we can let the landowner be more aware of places where animals are crossing. And we also used this app to map invasive species on the property, such as these vines that grow are something that you want on your property. With the Survey 123 app, we are also able to collect a lot of data. So if you look over here, this is every single data point that we entered with the Survey 123 app along the Tucson River in Sadieta. And down here we have a pie chart that shows the percentage of potential concerns, positive assets, and not present or not entered of erosion on the property. Right here, also using Survey 123, you can get a map of everything. So if you look at the red dots, that's where erosion is a potential concern. And then the gray dots, that's where it's either not entered or not present. And then the green dots and blue dots, that's where it could be a positive asset. I would also like to thank all of the presenters who came out and talked to us. We had a very informative day. One of the days we went to Ojo Caliente and we broke up into groups and we each learned something in each of the groups. We also had a few people come out to the field with us. So I'd like to thank Jessica, the soil scientist, David Griego from RCS, and Eleanor for coming out to the field with us and teaching us their expertise in the field. And we would also like to thank Mr. Rich Rader and Mr. Carlos Herrera for giving us this opportunity, and Mr. Victor Jaramillo for keeping us on track, and all the others who supported us throughout this experience. We'd also like to thank each and every one of you who came out to watch us present our presentation. Thank you very much.
three types of graphs, right? Three types of graphs, what are they?
Circle.
Circle graph,
Bar graph.
bar graph, and line graph.
Sonny, you didn't have to tell me.
Bar graph shows information by count, right? And a circle graph, right, shows percentages. So Leo gets up there and he starts talking, saying, here we have a pie chart. These guys here are all class, never seen pie charts. Pies are something you teach. Circle graphs are what you use. So we got a big fight. We got a big fight.
The face he made.
He got pissed.
With that being said, that is our presentation. Like I said, truly appreciate the work, the opportunity to work on different matches of different areas. I look forward to extending our program into the fall, into next year. One of the things that kind of bummed these guys out a little bit, even my last year's interns, is that next year we'll start the application process all over again. And I know that right now they're bummed when I say that, so I'll have to talk to my boss, right? More than likely, these guys will not be hired for a second term. And the reason for that, I know it sounds mean, but the reason for that is I want other students from the school to get this opportunity. Right? So we'll pick a group. Yeah, we had two females last year. Well, I had one female.
No, that's a
This
really,
year.
we're making efforts because of, the testosterone situation. To partner with people like Elizabeth, who is, Victor Coronado's wife, that already does STEM. So I think that's a great question. And, again, I think the resources are here in the room. We have amazing people here. Part of it is asking the right questions and getting things out at the right time. I want to acknowledge Ron too quickly, because he was able to not only show an amazing property, which is called El Tesoro, I mean, seriously stunning piece of land. And then he was able to teach and share about what are the resources we have here. And in many ways, the resources are actually here. We just aren't really tapping into them. So he has a curriculum that he's worked on, drawing from the well. And then we also got support from the Enlace program, which actually basically paid your paychecks, you guys. So I just want to acknowledge that, Ron. But back to the idea of drawing from the well. What is the well, you guys, that you're going to be able to draw from now when you're called out to address, like be on your toes to address some kind of flooding problem? Stevan. Yeah, it's your education, staying focused to get somewhere. Now, raise your hand if this was your first job ever, like paid job with the paycheck. I think you guys, I think all of you guys.
No, I used to be a gentleman.
Okay, good. So you guys learn a lot on the job. Think of that as school. It's not just getting a paycheck. It's finding ways to advance yourself and help people out. So I want to, everybody here that showed up, thank you so much. It couldn't have happened. Literally, Victor and I are standing at the end of May, like, what are we gonna do? And I want to thank you, Victor, because it's really because of your connections in this community over years that basically enabled us to work with Luis, work with Renee, work with you, and see some land that, you know what? A lot of people don't get to see that very often. Yeah. Well, we're 25 years old now. We're 25 years. I've been running internships for 14 years, and it was really because of working with Victor helped us think of the new model of finding a local crew supervisor that has some connection with community that can make things happen. Victor, if you haven't seen it, it's got a video on YouTube that I made because he's a smart guy. He's what I call smart clicks. And when you find people like him, like other people that I can name, or Mesa Vista, Claudio Reynoso, Marcos Valdez is a smart club. You find ways to work with them and resource them. And Ron runs a smart club. Luis Pena. Both Luis Peñas. We got actually powerhouse crew, at least Luis Peñas here. We got Luis Peña Square. That's Torres. I'm sorry. Two Luises. I apologize. So thank you for all coming. If you guys have anything else to say?
Can I make a quick,
Yes.
just
Yeah,
a quick
anybody else?
comment? I think you guys demonstrated a classic case of using your community as a classroom.
Yeah.
And not too many schools have that opportunity. I mean, you could be in an asphalt jungle and some playground that's full of blacktop, or you could be right out here in your communities. I think that's a takeaway that these students will learn from that is unique to anybody else and probably would only work with the chemistry of this group. I tried to impose on them the thought of what a land grant was, or what the land grant meant, or what the land grant community consisted of. And when they saw a map of 186,000 acres that included all of these communities, and then being it reduced down to 6 acres. And when you look at Pitaka, the next time you drive in there, drive through there, you see 6 acres versus the swath of land that was once in the community ownership. It makes you think twice. It makes you think and understand from a different perspective. It makes you think about the future as well as the past. Because all of the questions that you all raised when we looked at that map and said, well, where did it go? The land is still there, but it's under different ownership. If it was still intact, you would be the stewards, you would be the owners. You as heredores of these particular lands would be managing your own forest. And that's the skill, that's the knowledge, that's the takeaway. That's the learning that you now have to start putting into your head. Because you are of these communities. You don't have to go prove it to anybody else. And when you know you have a place in your community, you'll always be welcome in your community. And that's the important. You can go, as we taught you with raíces y alas, you have roots right in these communities. And that's what keeps you planted here. Just like an invasive weed, or just like one of those healthy plants that you recognize. And yes, wherever that river meanders, that's how your life's path is going to meander. But you know how to correct some of those, and the skills that you're learning in your communities, in your families, use those. That's the institutional knowledge that you're not going to get in college. It's the stuff that you're learning right here from your grandpas, your uncles, that have to do it every year, that have maintained that relationship with the land continuously. So don't lose it. Doesn't matter if you go to New York City and use your skills over there, you always have a place when you come over here. Because when you have roots, that's where you're going to come back to. And when you have alas, that's where you're going to fly to. We don't even know that. We don't even know where that drone was, even though how much we controlled it. That's what your lives are going to be like drones flying all over the world. And you're lucky that you have professors like these two that cared enough to really keep you grounded, but also to give you that encouragement to go and spread those wings. Take it to heart.
Thank you, Ron, for taking that time to share that and the time to go to your place. That was amazing. And then to share your vision about like, yeah, I'd like to see trout here someday, things like that. Because we're in this really strange time, folks, of generational change as well as climate change at the same time.
Okay, so in closing, Mr. Martinez, you have any comment?
I just want to say congratulations, guys. Great. I appreciate all.
Thank you.
All the details, consistency, which is kind of this project. I'm sad to see you kids go, and I was just asking for something.
All right.
Elton gets to go to catch. She's one of our sisters, so she'll be out there. We're just excited to have this over. Thank you, Mr. Torres.
Mr. Torres, and by the way, Mr. Torres spoke to these kids individually earlier on. Thank you, Luis, for doing that.
You're quite welcome. I was very pleased to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And you had a good program, and it was just rumored if I went out. So,
Mr. Kenyon?
Yeah.
You have a lot of challenges.
our resident page about the unfortunately of changing environment. Sharing these tools is hopefully gives you a taste of some of the strategies that you can use, and I encourage you guys to interact with the environment and develop a sense of querencia, which is feeling like you're from a place, you know, place that you connect to, particularly you people, your connection is hope you never forget that connection. That's where your ancestors from. And very much love that place. All of you are always welcome to come back and hang out on the trees. Any other comments, questions? Anybody? Okay, well, that concludes our presentation.
Good job, you guys.
I guess that's one thing about Mesa Vista. When we invite people, we say we're gonna have food. So feel free to take seconds, help yourself.
There's sweets
Do a
too.
little bit. These guys are actually on the clock till about 4 o'clock. So enjoy. Thank you all for
Thank you,
coming.
guys. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Rich.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Eleanor, hey, say thanks to Eleanor. She's there.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Have a good afternoon. Bye, Carlos.
We'll be coming up here for the fourth. I think all the kids are gonna stay over there to lunch and camp out for a couple of days.
You know what? Just have an idea.